So hello everyone, this is my project GitHub Metadata Rewriter. I made this project as an open source project while my time at API fellowship at Deploy. Why exactly did I build this? This was mostly a learning project. I built this as a small project to understand how exactly the Git, how internally does Git work, how exactly the plumbing commands work, and not just the for certain commands that we use daily, like Git push. I wanted to learn how exactly does filter branch work, how exactly does FSCK, GC, room origin work. So I've explained it on the way as well. Basically, what this does is it clones any repo, whichever is mentioned. Since I have SSH enabled on my machine, I've configured SSH. I use that and clone this repo on my another account. I clone it. I just set a start date and end date. These are important because exactly how exactly a commit hash is made. It takes metadata. It takes the author data. It would take the start at the time of commit. It would take the email, etc., and create a hash out of this. This basically first when we load this app, what it does is it would clone this application in let's go to the clone. It would clone this application and it would basically write the commits in a edited commit.txt file. These are the helper function that I made for it. It would write it in a certain pattern where in this pattern, this format basically, where H would be the full commit hash, then author name, email, date, and the commit message of that specific commit. Then the next step would be like in this, there is it would be to run this editor. Run could be I could directly run this, which is very limited. So I configured AI for this, where the commit details, all those metadata is given to AI. It's given a system prompt, and based on that system prompt, the start date and the end date, it takes the data and edits all those information. This is the system prompt right here. Basically what this does is it takes the commit, it takes that file, the commit file, it edits that, and using that same format, it improves the commit messages. It makes sure all the timeline is between the start and the end date that was given, and also basically we also generate some dates right here using this function, which is also for non-AI run, and it returns that in an updated commit.txt file. Then it's the main thing. It runs the edit commit file, where basically all the commits, the new commits are edited into the file. We'll go to that. Yeah, so this is this it takes in the file, it edits all those functions, all those commits, all their metadata. So for this it uses a git filter branch, which basically is the older plumbing command to edit the to remake the entire .git file. Basically how git works is it stores all the data in forms of blob, in form of compressed blobs, and out of the metadata, the name, email, date, and other it's the author and the committer detail. Author and committer are basically different. There is a committer of who makes the changes, and the author is basically who approves those changes and pushes those changes basically, and the date. And using filter branch, it basically creates a bash file. Here I've named it this file, and it uses that bash file to remake the entire git commit metadata file. Edits the message, the commit message, and rewrites them as well using another message in sh file that we create. This is the command that is run essentially. The message filter is basically I create this. Since in the older filter branch command, we had to edit them separately, and then it runs the that command, which rewrites the entire history. I'll run it side by side and in a second. Also, after running that, git does not in filter branch, it does not remove the older blobs and all those details. So we have to manually remove all those garbage. For that, we first use update ref. Update ref is basically to manipulate the git reference. Minus d flag, we use it to delete the old file or old references. The reflog expire is there are recovery logs that are in git to in case of recovery we have to remove them as well. GC is basically garbage collection, and remote prune is to it also tracks the remote branches, so it fixes that as well. These are basically cleanup commands. I'll test it from, let's say, 19th of let's say 17th of June to 19th of June, end of the date. Okay, I'll run this command. It has talked about it. First it will clone that repo. This is the code that is being cloned. After it has cloned that repo, it will create this edit.txt file, which is basically the, then it will get that file to LLM and wait for the LLM to respond. It creates this file, this updated commit.txt, which will be different from the previous one. Then it runs this filter branch thing. It cleans up everything, and then it pushes the changes to the remote repository finally. So if when we refresh it, we can see that now the timeline has changed. Earlier it was June 5, now it's June 19. So this is how it works. It's just an education project. So that's it. Thank you.